Hi, everybody. This is Saad for the Saad Truth. Last night, I went to see the new movie Conclave with my one of our children and my wife, and I was very excited to see the movie because I've always been fascinated by that process. For those of you who don't know, the conclave is the very secretive process by which the College of Cardinals in the Catholic Church decide who the next pope is going to be once the sitting pope either passes away, usually that's what happens, or if he resigns. Uh, Now, actually, it had always been a fantasy of mine to study the actual process by which the cardinals make the decision, because as some of you know, my doctoral training and my doctoral dissertation was in the area of psychology of decision making. And so I'd always thought, my God, could you imagine how incredible it would be to have access to the actual deliberations, the negotiations, the persuasion strategies that might take place in such a process. But I always knew that that would just be a unfulfilled fantasy because I never imagined that I would ever have access to such information. But in any case, the process of the conclave with its pageantry and history and secrecy is something that had always fascinated me. And so I went to the movie with great expectations. And of course, the ensemble, that's the actors, uh, John Lithgow, Stanley Tucci, Ralph Fiennes, Isabella Rossellini. So this was just wow! I couldn't wait. I remember another movie that had, I mean, although much older in terms of when it happened, the Name of the Rose with Sean Connery, which happened. I actually refer to it in the Parasitic Mind. It's a movie that happened during the so almost 1,000 years ago. I think it was around maybe 12th or 13th century, where there is a uh, monastery where all of the monks are mysteriously passing away, and then Connery's character is sent there to investigate. And so I've always found, the church uh, fascinating, even though of course I'm Jewish, right? So this has nothing to do with religion; it has to do with history and in this case secrecy and pageantry. And so I'm watching the movie, and it's absolutely fascinating in that it reminded me very much of 12 Angry Men. This is the original, arguably my favorite movie of all time. For those of you who've never seen it, you should, because it's a perfect example of the psychological processes that go into group dynamics, that go into how do you convince someone to come to your position. I won't give it away, but you should definitely watch it. It stars Henry Fonda. In any case, uh, in the movie yesterday, Conclave, it was just very gripping. The scenery, the cinematography was absolutely breathtaking. Seeing the cardinals with their red robes and so on, it's really quite beautiful. And all the machinations that take place. I mean, right? These are cardinals, so you somehow think that they're somehow holy, but of course they succumb to all of the usual frailties of all humans, right? Unchecked ambition, Machiavellianism, manipulation, and so on and so forth. And then I can't remember exactly when it happened, but about with 20 minutes left in the movie. Now, by the way, spoiler alert: if you're planning on going seeing this movie, do not listen past this point because I'm going to spoil the ending for you. So, spoiler alert, you've been warned. So then at one point, there's a bomb that explodes outside where the conclave is taking place, and one of the cardinals, they all, some people die outside, but all of the cardinals come out with some injuries, but unscathed otherwise. And one of the cardinals, who is a traditionalist, gets up and I guess the presumption is that it's an Islamic terror attack, gets up and says this is a holy war against with Islam. It's, you know, they've been persecuting us forever. They show no tolerance towards us. We should show no tolerance towards them, and so on and so forth. And then a cardinal who uh, you know, who had not at all planned on becoming you know, was not one of the contenders to become the next pope, gets up and starts saying, you know, very much in line with my next book, Suicidal Empathy, no, you know, we're better than that, we're loving, and so on. And so, you know, Islam is beautiful. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. It's not rush to judgment and all this. Right away, that rang very false to me. Like, why are you suddenly injecting this, you know, Islam is beautiful stuff? But that wasn't the end of the descent into the woke abyss, because we find out that that cardinal turns out to be intersex, and he is voted to be the next pope subsequent to his very loving and empathetic you know, rebuttal to, you know, Islam hates us. And it turns out that he had a uterus. He had gone, you know, so he's intersex. He had gone to a clinic to have it removed, but then felt, you know, he had lived his life as a male, and but felt that maybe this was false for him to be a cardinal. He had asked to the Pope, you know, he had uh, given his resignation, but the Pope convinced him that no, I don't want you to leave the order, you know, to no longer be a cardinal. And then the dean of the College of Cardinals, who is Ralph Fiennes, uh, goes ahead and, you know, the votes are tallied, and the intersex uh, cardinal becomes pope. Now, again, please understand that I'm uh, I'm hardly a Catholic. I'm Lebanese Jew, so it's not as though I'm religiously offended, but I'm offended by the fact that there is no place that we can go where we're not moralized to, we're not talked down to by the anointed ones about how we should think, right? If you want to buy a beer, well, Dylan Mulvaney, you know, the lady Dylan Mulvaney, who happens to have testicles and a penis, is the one who is telling you that you should drink this beer. If you go to a football match, American football, or an NBA game, or a soccer match, you then have the kneeling, you know, BLM, there's no room for racism here. If you go to a movie about one of the most ancient, most mysterious, most secretive, most pageant laden processes called the Conclave, where you choose the Pope, now we have to incorporate, you know, intersex, you know, what's a man, what's a woman. It's time for the Catholic Church to move forward and be modernized. No, Islam is not against Catholics. It's a beautiful, peaceful, tolerant religion. And so there is no place where you can go where you can escape the anointed ones, to use Thomas Sowell's apt term, uh, teaching us how to be better people. And that is deeply offensive, right? Because I want to watch a soccer match without being told how I need to be a better person. I want to go as a professor to my university without having to take mandatory training on how to speak to women, because otherwise all men are potential rapists, right? That's not how a free society behaves, where there are superior people, more enlightened people, whether they are your employer or your beer manufacturer or your filmmakers or your politicians, who are teaching you how to be a better person. Shut the F up, create art, and stop moralizing to us. So, you know, the conclave until the last 20 minutes was a brilliant movie. And then the last 20 minutes, I have to tell you my recommendation if you're in any way offended by all this woke, parasitic moralizing, avoid the movie. Have a great Sunday, everybody.